With all considerations mentioned above, and especially for the best interest and mental health of the minor Zariah, the judge raised his gavel, preparing to deliver the sentence that could destroy Nyala's life. But then, a small, determined voice cut through the heavy silence of the courtroom. Everyone's attention shifted toward the slightly open door at the back. There stood Zariah, alone in her school uniform, having sneaked in unnoticed. Tamane's smug face froze, shock replacing arrogance instantly. "Zariah, what are you doing here? Get out!" he shouted, panic lacing his voice. The guards hesitated, unsure what to do. Nyala's heart sank, torn between fear and awe. Zariah stepped forward, her small footsteps echoing across the marble floor. She did not glance at her mother or father, but at the judge, who sat stunned. Even the gavel, raised for the sentencing, hovered in midair. "Zariah," Nyala whispered in disbelief. "How?" Timane was faster to react, pale and trembling with terror. "Zariah, go back. This is not a playground." But the little girl didn't stop. She walked confidently to the center of the courtroom. Attorney Cromwell rose in alarm, shouting, "Your Honor, this is a procedural violation. A minor cannot interrupt proceedings." Attorney Abernathy intervened calmly but firmly. "Your Honor, this child is here for a reason. She is here for her future. We cannot ignore her presence." The judge's stern eyes softened slightly as he studied Zariah, then nodded. "Let her speak," he commanded, silencing the murmurs. Zariah looked at him, trembling yet resolute. "Your Honor," she began, "I'm sorry to interrupt. I came alone. Auntie brought me, but I sneaked in. I heard my daddy say Mommy is bad." Gasps filled the room. Timane's eyes widened, and he shouted, "Watch your words, child." But the judge held up his hand, signaling silence. Nyala's chest tightened, fear mixing with hope. Was Zariah going to echo Timane's lies? The little girl swallowed, gathering courage, her pure eyes locked on the judge. "Daddy said Mommy gets angry. Daddy said Mommy can't take care of me. But can I show you something? Something Mommy doesn't know?" The courtroom froze again. Zariah's words hung like a delicate thread, fragile yet powerful. Nyala's heart pounded. Could this be the moment that changed everything? Timane's panic became palpable. His arrogance evaporated, replaced by sheer terror. Attorney Cromwell's face mirrored disbelief. The judge's gavel struck the desk once to demand silence, and the courtroom held its breath. A clerk approached Zariah carefully, taking the cracked tablet from her tiny hands. Zariah pointed to a video file in the gallery. "Play the video, princess," said the judge, his voice firm but patient. The clerk pressed play. On the large courtroom monitors, the shaky footage flickered to life. The living room, the familiar sofa, the plant pot Zariah often hid behind. Her voice whispered in recognition, "It's our living room." The room remained silent, every eye glued to the unfolding truth. Two figures entered the frame. Timane and Valencia, not in court attire, but relaxed, intimate. Laughter, hugs, and kisses exposed the betrayal in living color. Nyala's breath caught, her suspicions confirmed. Attorney Cromwell's jaw dropped. Timane froze, pale and horrified. The quiet girl had brought the secret world of deceit into the glaring courtroom light. Valencia's face fell as reality dawned. The judge's eyes pierced Timane. The gavel strike would come next, but first, the video revealed the full magnitude of the crime. Fraud, perjury, manipulation, and betrayal captured by a 7-year-old's cunning courage. The first 4,000 characters end here, with the courtroom frozen in shock, awaiting justice. The courtroom was tense, every heartbeat echoing in the silent chamber. The video played on, showing Valencia's voice, cold and calculating. "Are you sure your plan will work? Your wife is so stupid." T-Main's laughter followed, overconfident and cruel. Stupid and submissive. She won't suspect anything. All the money has already been transferred to your account, baby. Nyala's knees weakened. Their joint account, all gone. Attorney Abernathy whispered something inaudible but comforting, his eyes fixed on the screen. Zariah, standing firm beside the clerk, watched every frame with unwavering focus. Her tiny hand had become the instrument of truth. The video captured T-Main, pulling Valencia onto his lap, kissing her neck. The betrayal, the intimate deceit, played out for all to see. Gasps, murmurs, and stunned silence swept across the courtroom. Even Attorney Cromwell, usually composed, looked like a man betrayed by reality itself. Nyala's heart clenched. The woman who had testified against her, who had tried to frame her as unstable, was the same woman captured in her living room, complicit in her husband's treachery. T-Main, realizing the enormity of exposure, lunged toward the clerk, shouting, "Stop it! Turn it off!" 2 security guards moved in instantly, restraining him, his expensive suit soaked in sweat, his face pale and desperate. "It's manipulated! It's fake!" he cried, twisting in vain. The judge banged his gavel sharply, silencing T-Main. "Continue the video," he commanded. The courtroom hung on every word. There was no room for deception now. Truth had taken center stage. Valencia's voice emerged again from the recording. "I'm still worried." "What about the psychologist's testimony?" T-Main laughed, sinister and assured. "Already prepared. I recorded her hysteria last week. The judge will see an unstable woman. No one will believe her. Only Dr. Valencia, the professional." Nyala's sobs choked her throat. The plan, the malicious orchestration was laid bare by the eyes and courage of a child. Zariah's intuition, memory, and bravery had dismantled a year-long conspiracy in mere minutes. The video showed T-Main and Valencia toasting with wine, laughter echoing, confidence blooming. Their plot, meant to defame Nyala and steal custody of Zariah, was unraveling in the most humiliating way. T-Main's lawyer, Cromwell, now pale and trembling, could not believe his client's hubris had led to this exposure. His own career was at risk. Valencia, once composed, was now frantic. She bolted toward the back exit, only to be intercepted by a female officer. Collapsing to the floor, her cries replaced the facade of professionalism. "Bring her here," commanded the judge. Controlled chaos swept the courtroom. T-Main, now restrained, was seated like a trapped animal, silent but visibly panicked. Valencia, dragged forward, sobbed uncontrollably, the mask of a manipulative psychologist gone forever. Nyala sat frozen, absorbing the revelation. Attorney Abernathy's hand gently patted her back, but his eyes never left the unfolding justice. Zariah remained composed, her small frame the pillar of strength. She had confronted deceit with the clarity only a pure-hearted child could muster. The judge's gaze hardened. "Mr. T-Main," he began, voice icy, "you entered this court seeking justice, yet you conspired to defame, deceive, and manipulate. This video, recorded in your own home by your daughter, proves the extent of your crimes." T-Main's head hung low. She set me up," he muttered. "A feeble excuse?" Valencia screamed, "Liar! You told me to do it. You promised me everything." But the courtroom had already witnessed the truth. T-Main's arrogance had evaporated. The gavel struck again, echoing through the room like thunder. "Both confessions have been recorded. Miss Valencia, perjury and unethical conduct in this court will have consequences. Mr. Cromwell, your complicity has been noted. Mr. T-Main, the lawsuit you filed is based on lies and deceit." Nyala's tears blurred her vision. Relief, disbelief, and triumph mingled. The child who had snuck into court had turned the tide of justice. Zariah's courage, insight, and determination had revealed the full scope of betrayal. The room waited, hearts pounding, for the final judgment. Silence reigned, but the tension was unbearable. The gavel struck once more. This court will not stop at exposure. Consequences will follow. Custody, assets, and justice for the victim will now be addressed. The second 4,000 character segment ends here, leaving the courtroom on the brink of the final reckoning. The courtroom was suffused with a tense anticipation. The judge adjusted his robe, his gaze scanning every face, settling briefly on Niala and Zariah. "This court," he began, his voice firm and resolute, "has witnessed clear evidence of conspiracy, fraud, and perjury. The protection of the minor must be our first priority." Nyla felt her chest tighten, hope mixing with disbelief. Could it truly be over? "First," the judge continued, raising a finger for emphasis, "full custody of the minor, Zariah, is granted unconditionally to her biological mother, Mrs. Niala. No conditions, no exceptions. The safety and well-being of the child are paramount." Niala gasped audibly, her hands trembling. Tears began to stream down her face uncontrollably. Zariah, small but composed, smiled faintly and ran to hug her mother. In that instant, the tension of months dissolved into relief and joy. "Second," the judge proceeded, flipping through the legal file in his hands, "Mr. T-Main's divorce petition is hereby dismissed. Based on irrefutable evidence, it is clear that the petition was founded on lies, manipulation, and defamation." T-Main, restrained and humiliated, slumped in his seat. His face, pale and drawn, mirrored the collapse of the arrogance he had worn that morning. His lawyer, Cromwell, looked as though he might faint, unable to reconcile the devastation that had overtaken his client's plan. "Third," the judge continued, "Mrs. Niala, do you wish to file a countersuit?" Attorney Abernathy leaned close to Niala, whispering encouragement. Niala's voice, firm despite the tremor, replied, "Yes, Your Honor. I demand a divorce on grounds of adultery, fraud, and emotional abuse." A murmur ran through the courtroom. The judge nodded solemnly. "Granted. Custody of Zariah remains with Mrs. Niala. Divorce granted to the petitioner on the grounds cited." Niala felt a sense of empowerment she hadn't felt in months. "Fourth," the judge said, voice growing sterner, "all assets currently in the possession of Mr. T-Main and Miss Valencia are to be immediately frozen. This includes bank accounts, properties, and investments. An investigation will trace all misappropriated funds and ensure restitution to Mrs. Niala." The courtroom gasped as the weight of justice settled over T-Main and Valencia. Niala's eyes welled up with tears of relief. Finally, the financial chains that had been forced upon her were about to be broken. "The house currently occupied by the defendants," the judge continued, "is declared full property of Mrs. Niala and Zariah. No one is permitted to interfere. The residence must be vacated immediately by Mr. T-Main and Ms. Valencia." Security personnel noted the order, ready to enforce compliance. Niala allowed herself a deep breath. At long last, a semblance of normal life seemed within reach. "Fifth and final." The judge's voice rang across the courtroom, carrying a chilling finality. "Based on the video evidence and confessions obtained in this court, Mr. T-Main and Ms. Valencia are hereby taken into custody for conspiracy to commit fraud, perjury, domestic theft, and evidence tampering. Take them away." The guards immediately moved in, handcuffing T-Main and then Valencia. T-Main's expensive suit, once a symbol of power and pride, now hung loosely on his trembling frame. Valencia's professional composure had completely disintegrated, replaced by tears and hysteria. Niala sat frozen, absorbing the magnitude of the verdict. Zariah, her tiny hero, remained by her side, holding her hand with quiet dignity. Attorney Abernathy, smiling with satisfaction, whispered, "We've won, Niala. Justice has been served." Nyala simply nodded, her heart still racing. Her daughter had been the key to uncovering the truth, and together they had survived the storm. The gavel struck once more, a final punctuation to the courtroom drama. The villains were defeated, custody secured, assets protected, and justice irrevocably served. Nyala looked at Zariah, gratitude and awe mingling in her eyes. The nightmare of deceit and betrayal had ended. From here, a new chapter of life awaited, one free from fear, manipulation, and treachery. The third 4,000 character segment ends here, marking the conclusion of the courtroom resolution and the beginning of Neela's fresh start. Part 4: New Beginning, Moving, and Rebuilding. Life. The courtroom chaos slowly faded as Tamaine and Valencia were led away in handcuffs. Nyala remained seated for a few moments, holding Zariah's small hand in hers, feeling the warmth and reassurance of her daughter's presence. The reality of freedom and safety began to sink in. Months of fear, anxiety, and manipulation had finally ended. She could breathe again, truly and fully, without looking over her shoulder or doubting her own abilities. Attorney Abernathy placed a comforting hand on Nyala's shoulder. "We need to take care of the logistics immediately. The house, the accounts, everything," he said calmly. Nyala nodded, her mind already racing with thoughts of rebuilding. Though the grand house had once symbolized comfort and luxury, it now held too many painful memories. She needed a fresh start, somewhere Zariah could grow without shadows of the past haunting every corner. Within a week, arrangements were made to sell the large, cold estate. The proceeds, more than enough for a new beginning, were transferred to Nyala's account. Tamaine and Valencia had no access to the funds. The investigation confirmed the stolen money had been successfully recovered. The sense of security that Nyala felt as she watched the transfers complete was almost intoxicating. Finally, the chains of financial manipulation were broken, and she could plan a life on her own terms. Nyala found a modest 3-bedroom apartment in a quiet neighborhood, perfect for her and Zariah. It was not the palatial home they had left behind, but it radiated warmth and possibility. Moving in was both physically exhausting and emotionally liberating. Zariah immediately claimed one corner as her own, arranging her toys and books. She bounced around, her laughter filling the space, a sharp contrast to the tension that had once gripped the grand house. Nyala smiled, realizing that simplicity brought a freedom money could never buy. Days turned into weeks. Nyala started a small catering business from her new apartment, combining her passion for cooking with the independence she craved. Orders flowed steadily, and word spread about her delicious treats. Clients praised her skill and dedication, unaware of the battles she had fought to reach this point. Though she was busy and tired, Nyala felt a profound satisfaction she had never experienced in her former life. She was no longer beholden to anyone, no longer doubting her worth. Zariah thrived in the new environment. The fear of separation or manipulation was gone. She attended a nearby school and made new friends quickly, her sharp intelligence and warm personality attracting admiration from teachers and peers alike. Nyala often watched her daughter in the small park nearby, swinging or planting flowers. The joy of ordinary moments, once taken for granted, now felt like precious gifts. One afternoon, while sitting on a park bench, Nyala watched Zariah digging in the soil with determination. "Look, Mommy, the flowers are going to bloom soon," Zariah said, her hands dirtied from the task. Nyala smiled, stroking her daughter's hair. She marveled at how resilient and brave Zariah had been, the courage she had shown in court. The little girl had not only saved their lives, but had taught her mother the depth of her own strength. That evening, as they returned home, Zariah looked up at Nyala with serious eyes. "Mommy, can I ask you something?" she said softly. Nyala nodded, sensing the weight of the question. "The video, why did you record it?" Zariah asked, recalling the tablet that had exposed Tamaine and Valencia. Nyala explained carefully, reassuring her daughter. and Zariah's sharp little mind absorbed every word. Her reasoning had been logical, innocent, and brave, capturing the truth to protect her mother. Nyala hugged her daughter tightly, tears of joy and relief streaming down her face. "Thank you, Princess," she whispered. "Thank you for saving me." Zariah hugged back, her tiny arms strong and reassuring. In that moment, Nyala understood that she had not failed as a mother. She had raised a heroine, a girl with clarity, courage, and an unshakable sense of justice. Together, they were free to embrace a life of love, trust, and new beginnings. Daily life, rebuilding trust, and Zariah's growth. The days in the new apartment quickly settled into a comforting routine. Nyala woke early, the morning sun spilling across the cozy kitchen as she prepared breakfast for Zariah. Flour dusted her hands, the aroma of freshly baked bread filling the air. Zariah, still in her pajamas, helped set the table with the precision of a little adult, her small fingers carefully arranging the cutlery. These ordinary moments felt extraordinary. Each action, each shared laugh, was a thread weaving back the torn fabric of their lives. Neela's catering business began to pick up momentum. Clients adored not only her culinary skills, but also the care and personal touch she brought to every order. Word of mouth recommendations spread, and soon she was managing multiple orders daily. The work was exhausting, but it gave her independence, a sense of control over her life she had never felt under T-Main's manipulation. She felt proud, not just for the income, but for reclaiming her dignity and autonomy. Zariah thrived in this new life. School was no longer a source of anxiety. She approached her lessons with curiosity and determination. Her teachers were impressed with her intelligence, maturity, and emotional awareness. Nyala noticed how confident Zariah had become, no longer afraid to speak her mind or assert herself. The little girl, who had once been a silent observer in a dangerous game of deceit, was now a leader in her own right, respected by peers and adults alike. Evenings were their special time. They would often visit the small park near their apartment, watching the sun dip below the horizon. Zariah loved the swings, the slides, and the small flower beds where she had planted seeds that were slowly beginning to bloom. Nyala would sit on the bench, sometimes sketching recipes for her next catering order, sometimes simply watching her daughter run freely. The laughter of her child was a balm to Nyala's soul, washing away years of fear, doubt, and manipulation. Rebuilding trust took time. Though T-Main and Valencia had been removed from their lives, the scars of the past lingered. Nyala found herself instinctively questioning others' motives, while Zariah occasionally hesitated to share her thoughts fully. Slowly, through openness, honesty, and small acts of courage, they healed. Nyala never hid her feelings from Zariah, allowing the little girl to understand emotions, boundaries, and the importance of speaking the truth. These lessons, though simple, were profound for a child who had witnessed manipulation firsthand. One afternoon, while preparing a new batch of cookies, Zariah approached Nyala with a thoughtful expression. "Mommy," she began, "can we make a garden here too? Just small, like the park?" Nyala smiled, realizing the depth of her daughter's desire to nurture life and beauty around them. Together, they cleared a small balcony, planting flowers and herbs. Each tiny sprout that appeared reminded them of resilience, growth, and the power of care. The bond between mother and daughter strengthened with each passing day. Zariah became Nyala's confidant, and Nyala became Zariah's anchor. They celebrated small victories, successful orders, school achievements, blooming flowers, and simple days filled with laughter. Life, once overshadowed by deceit and fear, now gleamed with promise. Each shared moment was a declaration of freedom, a proof that courage, truth, and love could rebuild even the most shattered lives. As they prepared for bed each night, Zariah would curl beside Nyala, whispering stories of her day. Nyala listened, sometimes laughing, sometimes shedding tears of relief and joy. They were no longer victims. They were survivors, growing stronger with every sunrise. The echoes of past trauma were fading, replaced by hope, safety, and the warm glow of a future they were crafting together. In these quiet, ordinary days, Nyala realized something extraordinary. Life could be simple, beautiful, and safe if one had courage, truth, and the love of a brave little heroine by their side. Facing past threats, unexpected challenges, and Nyala's growing independence. Even with T-Main and Valencia behind bars, life was not without challenges. Some days brought reminders of the chaos they had left behind. Calls from banks regarding frozen accounts, inquiries about property, and the occasional nosy neighbor served as faint echoes of the life Nyala had fought to escape. Though she had legal victories, the psychological shadow of past trauma occasionally crept in. Nyala reminded herself, courage wasn't the absence of fear. It was moving forward despite it. One morning, as Nyala opened the catering orders, a letter arrived with no return address. Her hands trembled slightly as she opened it. Inside, printed words attempted intimidation, warning of revenge by those who still supported T-Main. Her heart raced, but she forced herself to breathe. This was not the first time threats had tried to unnerve her, and it wouldn't be the last. She placed the letter aside, focusing on Zaraya's homework spread across the kitchen table. Courage, she thought, came from protecting the ones you love, no matter the fear. Zaraya, sharp and perceptive, noticed the letter. "Mommy, are they coming for us?" she asked quietly, her small voice steady despite concern. Nyala knelt beside her daughter, holding her hands. "No one can hurt us, princess. We have each other, the law on our side, and our courage. We're stronger than any threat." Zaraya nodded, her trust in her mother unwavering, proving how much she had grown. Despite these external challenges, Nyala's catering business expanded. She began collaborating with local cafes, hosting small private events, and offering cooking classes online. Each success, though exhausting, reinforced her independence and confidence. She no longer feared T-Main's influence over her life. She had built her own world, one where honesty, skill, and hard work determined her path. Zaraya became Nyala's little assistant, helping with meal prep, delivering small orders, and even creating handwritten menus for clients. People adored her bright, responsible nature, often commenting on how mature and thoughtful she was for her age. Nyala watched proudly as her daughter navigated the world with curiosity and courage, no longer hiding behind fear but stepping forward boldly. Occasionally, past acquaintances or a distant family would inquire about the scandal, but Nyala handled it with grace. She no longer felt the need to justify herself. Her life, her actions, and her love for Zaraya were evident. With each passing day, the weight of T-Main's lies diminished, replaced by genuine accomplishments, laughter, and small victories that reminded Nyala of how far they had come. The nights, however, brought quiet reflection. As Zaraya slept beside her, Nyala would journal, noting lessons learned and goals for the future. She planned to expand her business, perhaps even opening a small cafe one day, a space filled with warmth, good food, and laughter. She dreamed of stability, freedom, and nurturing Zaraya's potential without interference from toxic influences. Occasionally, Zaraya would whisper, "Mommy, do you think Daddy and Auntie Valencia will ever change?" Nyala would smile softly. "Some people never learn, sweetheart. But that doesn't matter to us. We focus on what we can control. Our love, our courage, and our future." These small moments reinforced their bond. Trust had been rebuilt, stronger than before, anchored in truth, resilience, and love. In the midst of normal life, Nyala and Zaraya faced challenges that tested their strength, but they met each one together. Each obstacle, whether threat or task, became a reminder that they had survived worse. Their laughter, resilience, and love were shields against the shadows of the past. And with each passing day, they carved a life filled not just with safety and stability, but with joy, purpose, and the quiet certainty that nothing could undo the courage and heart they shared. Community support, small victories, and Zariah's moral growth life slowly began to settle into a rhythm. With Timane and Valencia behind bars, Nyala focused on rebuilding not only her independence, but also her connection with the world around her. The neighborhood, once a backdrop to her fears, became a network of support. Small gestures, like neighbors offering vegetables from their gardens or friends recommending catering clients, reminded her that kindness still existed in abundance. Each act was a quiet affirmation that she and Zariah belonged, that their presence mattered, and that the world wasn't entirely cruel. Zariah thrived in this environment. School became a place not only for learning, but for building confidence. She excelled academically, but more importantly, she developed a sense of empathy, witnessing her mother's struggle, her courage, and her refusal to be victimized instilled in Zariah an understanding of justice and morality. She often reminded her friends that fairness wasn't always about punishment. It was about truth, understanding, and protecting those who cannot protect themselves. One afternoon, as Nyala prepared a large order of catering boxes for a community event, Zariah carefully arranged handwritten thank you notes. "Mommy, everyone deserves to feel appreciated," she said, her words deliberate and thoughtful. Nyala's heart swelled. Her daughter had absorbed lessons far beyond her years. Courage, discernment, and compassion, all embodied in this small, bright girl who had once stood alone in a courtroom to save them both. The community events became a source of unexpected joy. Nyala's catering was praised, and her reputation as a hard-working, trustworthy woman spread. Invitations to collaborate with local organizations increased. Each success, while practical in securing their future, also reinforced the narrative that Nyala and Zariah were survivors, not victims. Their lives, once dominated by deceit and fear, were now defined by skill, integrity, and warmth. Zariah, for her part, became a small beacon of hope among her peers. Teachers praised her honesty and maturity, and her classmates often looked to her for guidance in resolving minor disputes. She spoke about fairness and empathy with a clarity that surprised even adults, reminding everyone that truth and courage often come from unexpected places. Her experiences had shaped her into someone perceptive, brave, and wise beyond her age. Despite the external calm, life demanded vigilance. Occasionally, legal follow-ups regarding frozen assets or minor procedural matters appeared. Nyala handled each with patience and poise, often accompanied by Zariah, who learned the importance of attention to detail and persistence. These moments were small lessons in resilience, demonstrating that freedom and justice required continued effort, not just initial victories. Evenings were reserved for quiet reflection. Nyala and Zariah would sit together, sometimes sharing stories, sometimes simply enjoying the stillness. Nyala encouraged Zariah to express her feelings openly, to process her experiences without fear. "It's okay to remember the hard times," Nyala would say, "but don't let them define you. You define yourself, Zariah, and you have a brave, kind heart." Through community, work, and shared moments, mother and daughter discovered the healing power of connection. Each smile, each small triumph, and each act of kindness reinforced the reality they were building, a reality grounded in love, truth, and moral clarity. The past, though painful, was becoming a tool for teaching and growth, not a chain holding them back. Nyala often watched Zariah helping younger children, guiding them patiently. She realized that her daughter had become a reflection of their journey, resilient, compassionate, and unwavering in the face of injustice. The lessons of courage and vigilance were now being passed down, not as a burden, but as empowerment, preparing Zariah to face life's complexities with wisdom and integrity. The path ahead was bright, filled with small victories, lessons, and love. Mother and daughter were no longer merely surviving, they were thriving. Each day was a testament to their journey, their bond, and the remarkable strength found in facing life head on together. Final resolution, new beginning, and emotional closure months passed, and the world slowly settled into a rhythm that no longer revolved around fear, betrayal, or loss. Neela's catering business flourished. Her reputation as a capable, honest entrepreneur attracted steady clients, and the modest three-bedroom apartment she shared with Zariah became a haven of warmth, laughter, and growth. No longer haunted by Timane's manipulations or Valencia's deceit, she could finally focus on living rather than merely surviving. Zariah's school life was vibrant and fulfilling. Her bravery in court had become a quiet legend in the local community. Classmates and teachers alike admired her courage. She learned the power of observation, honesty, and taking action when the truth demanded it. Her once fragile voice, which had trembled while pleading in court, had grown strong and steady. She spoke with clarity, empathy, and a profound sense of justice that inspired even the adults around her. Evenings became sacred times for mother and daughter. They shared meals, laughter, and reflections on their day. Zariah often recounted small victories or moments of kindness she witnessed, reinforcing the values her mother had instilled in her: integrity, resilience, and compassion. Nyala marveled at how her daughter, once so vulnerable, had blossomed into a young girl capable of understanding human complexity and moral nuance. Legal matters concluded definitively. Timane remained imprisoned for 12 years, convicted of fraud, theft, and perjury, while Valencia served her 8-year sentence and lost her professional license permanently. Attorney Cromwell faced disbarment and criminal investigation, ensuring that justice was thorough and comprehensive. The frozen assets were returned to Nyala, including the house she once shared with Timane, and the investigation revealed the extent of financial mismanagement and deceit. Every victory, both big and small, reinforced that truth and courage would ultimately prevail. Zariah, ever curious and perceptive, sometimes asked about the past. "Mommy, why did Daddy and Auntie Valencia try to lie to us?" she asked one afternoon while planting flowers in their small garden. Nyala smiled gently, kneeling beside her daughter. "Some people make wrong choices, Princess, but we can't control them. We can only control ourselves and choose love, truth, and courage." Zariah nodded, understanding in her eyes that life would always offer challenges, but integrity would guide her path. The days of fear were gone. The nights, once tense with uncertainty, now ended in comfort and shared warmth. Nyala and Zariah ventured into their community, participating in local events and building connections rooted in mutual respect and care. Their story, once private and filled with pain, had become a source of inspiration. Neighbors often recounted the tale of a mother and daughter who faced unimaginable trials, yet emerged stronger, wiser, and more united than ever. On weekends, they visited parks and gardens, enjoying sunlight and laughter. Zariah's joy was infectious. Her playful energy reminded Nyala of the resilience and hope they both carried. The past, though present in memory, no longer held power over their emotions. They had rewritten their narrative from one of betrayal and fear to a story of courage, love, and triumph. One quiet evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Nyala watched Zariah play with other children in the park. She reflected on the journey they had endured, the courtroom drama, the betrayal, and the ultimate vindication. Every tear, every fearful moment, and every challenge had been transformed into a lesson and a stepping stone. Nyala realized that her daughter had not only saved her, but had also shaped her into a stronger, more compassionate woman. Returning home, they shared a simple dinner, followed by a storytelling session. Zariah recounted her day with animated gestures and laughter, while Nyala responded with pride and warmth. In that moment, the world outside ceased to matter. They were safe, free, and together, an unbreakable team ready to embrace the future. As Zariah drifted off to sleep, Nyala whispered softly, "We did it, Princess. We're free, and every day forward is ours to live with love, truth, and courage." Zariah, eyes closed, murmured back, "I love you, Mommy." Nyala smiled through her tears. Love had triumphed, courage had endured, and justice had prevailed. Their story, marked by hardship, betrayal, and ultimate redemption, had reached its perfect conclusion. Mother and daughter together were finally home,